Herb Stratford, Fox 11 and KOLD Tucson, Arizona. Hey, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Herb.
So let me start by just asking you, how did you come to this project?
I was an amateur rooftopper back in my teens and 20s before I knew the activity even had a name. I just called it trespassing or urban exploring. And I was drawn to it for a lot of the same reasons that Vanya and Angela were: the transcendence, the attraction to the unknown. Somebody trying to find out who I was, I could face my fear on my own terms, sort of outside of society's machinery. And I later learned that others were doing this around the world, and I said, oh my gosh, I've got to find a story in this space that resonates as deeply as mine. But for many years, I just found daredevils risking their lives for likes, and that wasn't the story that I felt resonated as deeply as mine had. And it wasn't until 2015 that Angela Nicolau burst on the scene as the first female rooftopper, and she was saying she didn't want to compete with the guys, she didn't want to do this like the guys, she was going to see it through a feminine lens. And I thought that's fascinating. And I called her, and she told me that her influences were, gallery artists like Basquiat and Warhol, not influencers and social media stars like the Kardashians. And I thought that's intriguing. And then she told me she was raised in a traveling circus, and she saw rooftoping as the modern day version of a traveling circus. And I was like, this woman's really interesting. And then she introduces me to Vanya Birkis, who at the time is the most popular rooftopper in Russia. And she said he was a rival or a competitor, but you could sense under the surface that there was a flirtation, that there was a bubbling sort of courtship. And that's when this seed got planted of, oh my God, maybe we could tell a love story on top of the world and use extreme climbing as a metaphor for romantic trust.
So I have to say, it seems like that was the key to getting them to let you be the one to tell the story because you understood that world because you came from that world. Was that part of what gave them confidence in you?
Yeah, it was a process of learning to trust each other because I certainly didn't want to glorify anybody who I couldn't relate to, and they didn't want to be vulnerable with a filmmaker who they couldn't relate to. And so, over time, we saw that we shared a lot of similar sensibilities, and they learned that a long form documentary means that they have to reveal their warts and all, and that meant showing their fear and showing the relationship hurdles that they're encountering, because otherwise their lifestyle is too extraordinary to relate to. And so, letting us in on some of these universals that we all experience, the fear that we experience on a daily basis, even just looking at our partners, choosing to trust our partners. That was the stuff that I said to them. This is how the world is going to be able to identify and root for you. And so over time, they got very good at sharing that with the camera. The first time they watched a long form documentary is when they watched the rough cut of the film, because they just felt like 100 minutes of a documentary. I mean, that's going to be boring. That'll be a snore. And so I kept saying to them, watch Free Solo, watch Man on Wire. And they didn't over the course of the 7 years that we worked on the project. But ultimately, they did not fall asleep watching the rough cut. They stayed awake, and they had one note, which was Ivan said, there's one scene where I play a pickup soccer game, and I scored 6 goals in that game. And in this rough cut, you show someone else scoring a goal, and can you swap it out? I was like, if that's the extent of your notes, we're going to be just fine. So they really did take a leap of faith on us, and we took a leap of faith on them, and everybody involved in the project took a leap of faith.
So there's a lot of archival footage too, right? So I mean, that's one of the great things about working with subjects like them, because they documented so extensively their own experience before you got to them. It just made the pool richer, right?
Yeah, we shot over 200 plus hours of our own cinema verite with multicam, and then they had about 60 something hours of footage that they had shot themselves. One of the most remarkable things is that there was another film crew, Jens Lengert and Anita Hopland, European filmmakers who had made a short film with Angela during the year when she started texting with Vanya for the first time. And when we went into the raws of what they had shot, they had amazing full scenes of the first time that Vanya and Angela met. And so we actually, even though we showed up a little bit after they had encountered each other, we were able to go all the way back to the origins and actually use the real coverage of them meeting and starting to figure out that they wanted to collaborate together. And that was a godsend.
Well, congratulations on an absolutely thrilling film. I can't speak highly enough about how this needs to be experienced on as big a screen as possible. It's a remarkable film, so congratulations.
Thank you so much.